So when I was in high school, I actually fell in love with coding. I had learned front end, back end, a couple of different languages, and just love this idea of being able to find a problem and solve for it and be creative and like actually solve a need at play. Fast forward to college, me and coding do not mesh anymore. My brain is not made for that at all. And so I started exploring what are ways to still be creative, to still problem solve and solve the pieces that I actually liked. And so ultimately, that's how I got to design. I was like, well, it's the same exact thing in terms of what I'm trying to do. It's just that the medium that I'm using is ultimately different. And so that's how I got there. It was a long-winded way, but ultimately it made me realize like what it was that I really enjoyed and what was important to me. So that's how I got to it. And ultimately, just years later, still love it, still here. I think that especially in the industry, it is common to get pushback in terms of getting research, getting data, just because of the fact of the reputation that it comes with. But how do you push back on the pushback, if you will? I think it's really important to actually be willing to say, hey, there's a reason for this. The reason why I do it is it makes me feel more confident by realizing I'm not designing for me. I'm not designing just for my idea and my solution. By getting the evidence, by getting the data, the research, it allows me to realize I have people who agree with me on this. I'm not going in and being like, oh, go love this idea. Usually it's here's a couple ideas. And figuring out like if you're A/B testing or however you're doing the research, you can then see, oh, okay, this actually does resonate with the end goal or the end users. And so that's a great way for me to get that confidence because ultimately it's not just me. It's everyone else I'm testing with. It's, reassuring me that this is the right way to go down the path. I mean, for me, I always love research. I will always try and push for it no matter what the situation is. Once I get to the point of, okay, I've explored this enough on my own to a point where I have a rough idea of what could be a potential options, I will always try at that moment in time to push and get research because it's the only way to truly understand if this is the right path. I can design screens all day. I will happily do that. But ultimately, I could easily go down 10 different paths, all of which could be wrong, just based on my assumptions and my understandings of the problem. But I could be easily missing a small piece that will change everything. Really in a bind, I will not fight that battle and go with it, but I'll also make it clear later on and say, okay, once we've met deadlines and once we've gone into beta or release, let's pull it back in then and say, okay, now we can get the data from the other side of this. So it's really not just a one-time piece. If you can't get it at the beginning, get it at the end. I think there's the other side of it where even if you don't have the timelines, the resources to actually go get the evidence yourself, there's still a lot of ways to go get it. It'll obviously depend on the product that you're building and how much resources are out there publicly, but it's a great opportunity to go to Google, go to AI if you have that ability at your company. Use what's publicly available from other companies and use that to pull it in. Or if you work for a large org and there's products that are remotely similar, see if they have the data. See if they have anything that you can pull in and say, hey, it's not perfect. It's not one-to-one with what we are building, but at least it's something. I think obviously it's hard in certain orgs when research is not respected, but I think that this is where you don't have to do everything so formal. You can do it in a one-off conversation. It'll obviously depend who's your target user and who you have at your fingertips. But I think if you have that mindset, that's been huge for me in a bunch of different companies. The other side of it is remembering who else may be relatively close to the user. So that if you don't have exact contact with your user base, maybe there's someone on your product team who has been in that space in their past. Or maybe they have enough experience with this product that they're more of a SME than you are. So it's all about being as scrappy as you can be to try and get things when it's ultimately not reachable. That happens a lot. As much as I love to say I'm a great designer, I'm not perfect. We're all gonna have those scenarios where maybe I didn't have all the information. Maybe I went down a path that wasn't correct. And so I just went down this assumption and then the rest of it built up on top of that. So it's common, but I think you have to let yourself not get hit with your self-confidence. and realize that it's not on you as a designer, it's not on you even as a researcher, it's on the ability of the product and the way the team is going, and understanding how to then bounce back and say, we went down the wrong path, let's figure out why and what assumption was incorrect and how to correct that, and then ultimately then figure out how can you stay curious knowing that your confidence was hit. And I think the important piece is remembering to follow your UX process of being curious, asking questions, because just because you went down the wrong path once doesn't mean it's no longer an interesting product. Pivoting is so common in our industry that it's not like, oh, this person messed up, they're a terrible designer. No, you did your process. And it's good that you found out now versus later when you were 10 weeks down or once the product was built. So it's better, think of it that way too. The earlier you find out that you're wrong, the better, because you're saving everyone time and resources. Just keep pushing. Just keep trying to push back on the company and explain why. And I think there's two ways of doing that. The first way is maybe a little sneaky. And maybe not everyone will have the confidence and willingness to do this, but if there's ever a mistake in a process or you release something and then the company's like, wait, but why did we design this? Finding a way that's not going to cause anyone issues and be like, we didn't do research. I think that kind of hits it home and explains, well, had we done this earlier, we wouldn't be here. Because I think once people get to that point, they start to take it more seriously. I think the other side of it is just constantly bringing it up in during conversations and saying, hey, if we do this now, we won't get to where we are later. And being in that prevention mode, because again, we all know time, resources, all the above are super important. So if you can switch to that business mindset and sell it that way rather than, oh, I need to do my process, it's no, I'm saving you time, money, resources, etc. I think that also helps shift that mind and get people more on board. I think that a lot of times the biggest thing is, oh, what if I say this and I'm wrong? And I think that the more we speak up, the more we get out of it, but also the more we realize, oh, I'm not wrong. Someone else agrees with me. So, obviously start small, because saying something in the highest stake conversation may not be your smartest decision. But if you're in a small call with a couple developers or someone from the business, there's no harm in it, honestly, as long as you're confident in yourself or you have data to back you up. I say it's better to speak up and get your voice heard than to be there in the background.